What's up guys? So this is only my third best of video, but already the topic today was the most overwhelmingly requested episode idea. With 9 Circles levels being so iconic and so set as their own series, but with them also being so diverse, Circles levels are very easily comparable, but ranking them today was a difficult one. There are so many to choose from, all with their own charm, and all good for different reasons. However, I tried to pick a varied mix of things to keep it interesting, and though some levels may be missing, I hope generally you'll agree with the ordering of the featured levels today. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the list. To start us off, we have Future Circles by Kias, quite an unconventional insane demon that was in the top 50 for a fair amount of time. It certainly mixes things up, especially at the wave. There's a moving background and a neon design that was a breath of fresh air for the series, especially given Circles levels of that time and the difficulty of those, like Crimson Clutter, didn't really stray away from the original Circles design. It does lack decoration in some places. The buffer sequence, albeit short, could do with a bit more decoration and block design, and I am not crazy about the overall colour scheme, but it is still a bright and impressive solo effort from Erail, a former top 100 player and creator of levels like Windy Circles. For a Circles level, there isn't a hell of a lot of actual wave gameplay in this level, instead veering more towards ship gameplay. This was overall a confusing choice for me, but it does give the level some sort of variety, and was a venture that I reckon ultimately paid off. A good overall effort, especially given it was a player who wasn't even that specialised of creator. Overall, it gets a 5.5 out of 10, losing half a point for some of the clashing colours and the missing decoration. The Realistic is a level that didn't get much attention in the grand scheme of things and hasn't retained much interest ever since. It is also known as Blind Circles for the fact that it has a couple of neon diamonds following you in the background the whole time to confuse you and leave you fairly blind. This, combined with the confusing mazes in the buffer sequence, make this level a memory demon more than anything else. It actually is one of the most simplistic 9 Circles levels there is, featuring only wave and cube gameplay. However, the memory aspect is a nice bit of uniqueness for the level. Generally, it doesn't stray too far away from the old generic 9 Circles theme, but it does seem that the purpose of this level is to be more of a challenge than a visual masterpiece. Out of the 2 Circles levels from that period using Cry by Extra Law, with the other being Crying Souls by Nobbleboy, this is definitely my preferred one. It also has a similar theme to Antique Circles, but I like this slightly more even though the gameplay is much less varied. Overall, it gets a 6 out of 10 for me. There's nothing specifically about the gameplay and design that makes Fractured Circles by Artemial stick out, but this level was a big stepping stone to improve the community's overall wave skills with the wave mode. This level is a tough challenge, but it's not particularly hard in the grand scheme of things, but it was the essential next step up from levels like Fear Me and Figures to levels like this one and perhaps things like Solar Circles. In doing this, it managed to be an extremely fun level too, with one of my favourite songs in GD. The buffer sequence has some interesting memory gameplay and the wave parts are challenging mini-waves, without ruling out the level to the lower end of players. It would get a 6.5 out of 10 on this list, but I'm keeping it as a 6 just because the overall effort is a little bit scruffy. Now we have one of the OGs, the second ever 9 Circles demon to exist. This level was a beast when it came out and was far harder than the original, which was already being considered an insane demon. It's Fairy Dust by Super Pizza Luigi. This level was only the second 9 Circles demon, but was so much harder because Super Pizza Luigi wanted their level to stand a good chance of being rated demon, but ended up creating one of the hardest levels of the update. This remained the hardest 9 Circles level until Poltergeist came along, arguably. Given the third 9 Circles level would directly copy the gameplay for this one and just edit the colours, and that this was so well designed and neat for a trend we knew next to nothing about, this level did really well on those fronts. And though the song received criticism, I for one really like it, to be honest. Much more than the original 9 Circles theme. It's interesting that no remake or attempted sequel or even any level with the same song for that matter has ever been any good, but that doesn't matter as this sits very well as its own veteran 1.9 level. It comes in with a score of 6.5. Battleship Vortex is a level I often talk about the significance of, and I really am a massive fan of this level. Reason being that it was extremely hard for its time, especially when it exceeded Hell and Bloodbath. Now, by the time of its release, Sonic Wave had already been beaten and was rated, but to see someone other than Sonic step up to the plate and verify a top 5 extreme demon was really impressive, even more so given it was a 9 Circles demon and no one really at that point was seeming to want to invest that much effort both in creating and in playing in a 9 Circles demon, as opposed to a solo effort that might be more memorable. It placed at number 4 on the demons list, exceeded only by Yatigaratu, Sonic Wave and Artificial Ascent. As for the level itself, well, it took the formula that had not been all that varied in 2.0 and made some pretty impressive changes. The electric theme is nice and the overall colour scheme works well. Usually, difficulty doesn't make a level better, but in this case, the hellish gameplay really works well with the general fast pace of the level. By all accounts, it's not that fun to play, but it tries something new with the wave mode and created generally a good overall level. a solid and respectable 6.5 also. Another beast level of 1.9 heading up next, Crimson Clutter by Red Universe. This level was extremely difficult at the time of its release and went on to be one of the big uns in the top 10 that Serve became the first to complete all of. Crimson Clutter was a level that got gradually raised up the list before peaking in the top 10 as the hardest circles level in the game. Not only this, but it preceded Sonic Wave, which had just been removed from the servers amid a flurry of rumours, and did well to take the torch from Poltergeist and the Sonic Wave to be the hardest rated circles level at the time. It stayed this way, challenging players into the new update until the Hack Down Base update rose above it, which was quite disappointing. There's not much else to say about the level, save for that it is very, very neat and incredibly clean and quite consistent despite being extremely difficult. It doesn't mix up the gameplay much, but does enough to be incredibly challenging and not easily forgotten. As a result, and with very few negative things to say about this level, it gets a very good score of 7 points. And now for a circles level that actually dared to change up the formula a lot for its time. It's Quasar by Alan. This level varies in gameplay, decoration and even song choice, and it came only a few months after 2.0 was released. This was at the time when most circles levels were using Night Killer songs, and yet Alan strayed incredibly far off the beaten track by choosing a Mafia Pineapple song. This worked really well, surprisingly, and with the slightly longer time until the drop, it allowed for him to create some incredibly diverse gameplay for a circles level in the buffer sequence. With some levels on this list failing to stray outside of cube and ship only, this level has nothing less than cubes, dual cubes, UFOs, ships, bull parts, mini bull parts, robot parts and block mazes in the buffer sequence alone. This on its own is enough to warrant a great score, but then all the waves use some incredibly next-gen effects we hadn't really seen before. This level was made much shorter by the object limit, so might have been even more, but at no point is the gameplay ever predictable. It was a super interesting level, and one that looks fantastic for a 9 circles level even today, clocking a great score of 7.5. And now we have the best of the early circles levels, and quite an unconventional choice which you may not have expected. It's Astronaut 13 by Mindsap. Originating as an entry to Viprin's version 2 Demon Creator contest, Astronaut 13 was another level that really attempted to change up the formula and executed it exceptionally well. It's generally a black circles level, which I think is quite damning when it comes to making it interesting. However, there are 2 drops, loads of dual gameplay, memory parts and fast cubes, all packaged neatly together with one of the most underrated NK songs in my opinion. Fair play to Mindsap for verifying something so difficult too. The hard work definitely paid off to make one of the best circles level ever, and definitely the most interesting and engaging of the early circles levels, just for how much it changed up the formula and how well this was all pulled off. And now for a level I didn't actually know existed until I started researching for this video. Pulsar by Acarel and Xander is a very alternative circles level that, like many others, really changes up the formula. Often, I think circles levels are generally quite restricting when it comes to design choices, and hence it's rare to see any circles level really being a visual masterpiece or stacking up against other levels that are not 9 circles. Here, on the other hand, the block design is great and the designs are very unique. Moving decoration has been made good use of, and the colour and decoration schemes at the waves are unmatched for a circles level. This is incredibly visually assaulting on the senses, but in a good way. This level is also another one to use a Mafia Pineapple song, yet more evidence of how they work great with circles levels. A very impressive level all round and fully deserving of its score of 8.5. And finally, we have Poltergeist Reborn, another Penita level. Just because this level is last on the list, I don't want you to think that it is the best, as I can't really decide between this and Pulsar for the honour of being the last mention. This level has a lot to offer the community, initially being Andromeda's project and a rebirth version with new gameplay of Poltergeist which have been so key to the series. It came out slightly after Pulsar, but had been in the works for much longer than that. The best thing about this level, I'd say, is the sync. Penita's eye for well-synced gameplay is pretty unmatched in the community, and this is definitely one of his better works on that front. I'd say it's probably slightly harder than Bowser Vortex, because the eventual difficulty was settled on being slightly easier than Condrega City, but I've heard many conflicting reviews of the gameplay and how difficult it is. In terms of design, however, it is the vastly superior level next to Penita's other 9 Circles project. It also really mixes up the gameplay nicely and is very fresh. A lot of people were hyped for this level to come out, and with the exception of it not being rated, it didn't let anyone down. A fantastic overall level, although I had hoped it would be slightly brighter in colour scheme, but that is quite an inane piece of criticism from me. Another 8.5, as there's very little to differentiate between that and Pulsar. So there you have it. We went through a sample of Circles levels, both classic and new gen. They all boast their own qualities, be it that they were innovative and changed up the formula of an old increasingly stale series, or that the original levels still scrub up well today, or maybe they were just simple but simply great. There are many reasons that these kinds of levels can look good, and hence there are many I probably missed, so be sure to drop your opinions in the comments below. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please smash that like button, and if you're new around here, if you could consider subscribing, then it would really help me out. Cheers guys, and I'll see you later on in the week.